Well, the most dangerous Nepo baby in American history testified today, not under oath. The most dangerous Nepo baby in the world is, of course, the owner and operator of North Korea's nuclear weapons, Kim Jong-un, who inherited his dictatorship from his father. Robert Kennedy Jr. inherited his cabinet position from his father, who was the only other Kennedy to have served in the cabinet. Neither Kennedy earned a cabinet position. Robert Kennedy was appointed Attorney General by his brother, the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, in 1961, even though Robert Kennedy had no experience as a prosecutor and had never appeared in court as a lawyer. No one other than his brother ever would have chosen Robert Kennedy as Attorney General of the United States.
Today, we saw one of the most dangerous Nepo babies in American history testify in the U.S. Senate. I'm talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, whose rise to power says more about nepotism and corruption than about public service.
Robert Kennedy didn't earn his jobs in Washington in the 1950s and the 1960s, but he was a serious student of and practitioner of government. And he was always growing in the job. And later, as United States Senator from New York, Robert Kennedy tried to move the country and our politics in the right direction. And he was assassinated in 1968 during his presidential campaign, in which he was trying to save lives by running against American involvement in the Vietnam War. Robert Kennedy Jr. is not trying to save lives. Robert Kennedy Jr. repeatedly today in his Senate testimony used the phrase, quote, "when my uncle was president." No Kennedy has ever trafficked more blatantly and offensively in the dead Kennedy's memories than Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has never been a serious student of or practitioner of anything. Robert Kennedy Jr. was a heroin addict in high school, college, and law school and beyond. He did not have one day of his life as a serious student.
Think about it. Robert Kennedy Sr. became Attorney General only because of his brother. Nepotism was so normal back then that no one even batted an eye. But at least Robert Kennedy Sr. grew into his role and tried to move America forward. Robert Kennedy Jr., not even close.
Robert Kennedy Jr. did not take organic chemistry in college. Robert Kennedy Jr. did not take inorganic chemistry in college. Robert Kennedy Jr. did not take biology in college. Robert Kennedy Jr. did not take a single pre-med course in college and could not have gotten through one day of such a course. And that is who Donald Trump has put at the top of the Department of Health and Human Services, with jurisdiction over Medicare and Medicaid and everything else the federal government does in the healthcare sector. And he got that job from Donald Trump because of one word: Kennedy. Donald Trump, a lifelong attention addict, grew up obviously dazzled by the Kennedy fame machine. Fame is currency with Donald Trump. And so the most unqualified and incompetent Health and Human Services Secretary in history took his place in the Trump cabinet, working for a man whose fortune and business career was handed to him by his father. Donald Trump, the most famous Nepo baby in the New York real estate business, is a born believer in nepotism.
Instead, Robert Kennedy Jr. built a reputation on heroin addiction, conspiracy theories, and lies about science. And now, thanks to Trump, he's running America's health programs without ever taking a single pre-med course in his life.
Donald Trump, whose neurological aging has surely reached the point where he can no longer spell the word science, appears to hate expertise, especially in medical science. And so Donald Trump got the Health and Human Services Secretary that he deserves but the country did not. Robert Kennedy Jr. has called the COVID vaccines, quote, a crime against humanity. But in today's hearing, he agreed with the Republican senator who said that Donald Trump should get the Nobel Prize for development of the COVID-19 vaccines, even though Nobel Prizes in science are actually awarded to the scientists who do the work. And so today, Robert Kennedy Jr. says that Donald Trump should get a Nobel Prize for what Robert Kennedy Jr. has called a crime against humanity.
And the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. Kennedy has called COVID vaccines a crime against humanity. Yet in today's hearing, he actually agreed Trump deserved a Nobel Prize for vaccine development.
When Robert Kennedy Jr. was first asked by Newsweek how many times he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, he said once. When the New York Post asked him about it later, he changed it to twice. In her very friendly discussion with Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, now the Deputy Attorney General, Ghislaine Maxwell fills pages of the transcript talking about her friendship with Bobby, as she calls him. Ghislaine Maxwell, friend of Robert Kennedy Jr. She talked about being on the Epstein plane with Robert Kennedy Jr., and then Todd Blanche asked if she recalled there being anything inappropriate with Mr. Kennedy and masseuses or young women.
Do you have any recollection of Mr. Kennedy, of there being anything inappropriate with Mr. Kennedy and masseuses or young women on the trip you just talked about?
I never saw anything inappropriate with Mr. Kennedy.
And do you know whether he ever got a massage from one of the masseuses? Do you know either way?
I do not.
But not something you remember?
I mean, absolutely not. I mean, yesterday, if I didn't make it clear, I will reiterate it. I never, ever saw any man doing something inappropriate with a woman of any age.
Then there's the Epstein connection. Kennedy Jr. admits to flying on Epstein's plane, and Ghislaine Maxwell herself talks about their friendship. This is who Trump put in charge of American health policy.
Do you think the women on the steps of the Capitol were a hoax yesterday?
I don't know about any women on the steps of the Capitol.
The women who were talking about Epstein, do you think they were a hoax yesterday?
Do I think they were
Do you think they were perpetrating a hoax yesterday?
perpetuating a hoax?
Yeah.
I have no idea what they were saying. This is the first time hearing about it.
You're hearing about the women on the Capitol steps saying that they believe that the Epstein information should be made public. That's the first you're hearing about it. What I'm saying is you are perpetrating hoaxes. You, as this Secretary of Health, so you're undermining the whole healthcare delivery system, and you keep trying to point to chronic disease, but you're not putting solutions on the table to cover more Americans, and you're taking away the science and technology that has made us the leader that has saved, according to the first Trump administration Surgeon General, millions of lives, and you don't want to keep that going. So no, I don't support your continued efforts as Secretary.
Now you know what he looks like when he's lying. Of course, you already did. He actually said, I don't know about any women on the steps of the Capitol yesterday. That's a lie. That's a lie. The world knows that's a lie.
And when pressed on the Capitol protests calling for Epstein files to be unsealed, Kennedy flat out lied. He claimed it was the first time he had even heard about it, something literally everyone in Washington already knew.
For the first time, we're seeing deaths from children from measles. We haven't seen that in 2 decades. We're seeing that under your watch. You are a hazard to the health of the American people.
Can I respond to that, Senator?
No, I claim back my time.
We need to wrap
You are
up.
a hazard to the health of the American people. I think that you ought to resign. And if you don't resign, the President of the United States, who put forward Operation Warp Speed, which worked, should fire you. Thank you so much.
The bottom line? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a threat to public health and an embarrassment to the very idea of public service. Nepotism put him in power, and lies keep him there. But the cost? Real lives lost to preventable disease. This is what happens when power is inherited instead of earned. Nepotism, lies, and corruption put Robert Kennedy Jr. where he is today, and it's costing America dearly.